Yeah, and a paralegal was a dream job of mine. An attorney's a lawyer. I mean, a law environment. I loved the law, and I just thought it was interesting, the processes, the systems, the rules, the organization of it, and the enforcement, all of it.
A lot of folks out there may wonder, may not be wondering, but we're a kind of a husband-wife managerial team for the Arizona firm.
I should get to hang out and do different kinds of stuff. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, well, we do all sorts of stuff, but our primary focus is the Arizona firm and the attorneys here and the staff.
Yeah.
And so rewinding how this husband-wife thing came about was a little bit unique, and some people know the story and some don't, and everybody that hears it is like, what? So
Well, I still am like, what the heck? How in the world did that come about? And me too.
A little bit different, for sure, for sure.
What do you remember was the first thing? I'm just curious. What do you?
Well, I've been trying to start from the now to the then. So we work backward a little bit. So what I know now is everybody's first voice that calls in with an issue, whether they're in a tragic car accident or not a tragic car accident, or they're going through a tragic divorce or a divorce, which all tend to fall in the tragedy category, or they've got a criminal charge. And so your team, you and your team, get that first call. And that's how I first really got to know you, was working for the...
for you. I was working for you.
Kind of. I mean, I actually didn't have anything to do with intake at that time.
No, but I was having to work
You were employed
alongside you to get the information, to make sure, and mainly to find out, mostly to schedule, but also to find out the right info of how to talk with the people correctly and get them to the right hands.
Right. So I remember most of our involvement was over the phone. I mean, almost all of it. You explaining to me, hey, this one needs to be called right now, or I need this person, or that, or what do I do here, or all sorts of questions.
Do we take this type of case? This
Yeah.
type of...
And so, and it was always a very, I'd say just a very business casual conversation, usually fairly quick. Oftentimes even text, although I'm not very good at texting, so you found that out early on, which is a good thing. And so a phone call it was. So I remember that, and that was probably 7 years ago or so.
6 or 7.
Yeah, in that age group. We've been married 5 years, so that...
Oh, yeah, so it has been 7 or 8.
It's been a minute.
It's 24. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, it's going by, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that's how I remember, and now we're moving...
Married 5 years.
Yeah, now we're moving down the road. We've got 7 kids, 4 I brought to the table, 3 you did, and the blend has gone very well. Life could not be better. It's been amazing, and so that part is where I wanted to start. The rewind back to how we met is interesting because not many people meet for the first time, I would assume, their future wife in court.
No.
And especially against them.
Yeah.
And
no,
so,
I've never heard of one. Have you? You've been in this business a long time. I've never heard of that. I certainly did not think that when I met you.
in my 21 years, as far as somebody against somebody else, take the lawyer out of it. So a lawyer against another lawyer, I might have heard of that. There's some scuttlebutt with that kind of drama from time to time. Prosecutor, defense attorney, yada, yada, yada. But a client, so you were you were actually the plaintiff in this case, and I was the defendant. I represented the defendant. And so you were going after who I represented. And
Well, I was trying to prevent him from coming after me.
right, you were seeking an order of protection.
Right.
And
Yeah.
and I tried to work it out with you in the hallway because I knew I was going to win.
Mm-hmm.
And I tried to tell you that, but you were a very unappreciative recipient of that information.
Well, I didn't know anything, and I didn't understand that, you know. And I wasn't open to any I didn't know that it could even, I was completely lost.
It's the worst part of what an attorney does. Now that we're managing attorneys together, you kind of get this from that side of things a little bit. Because the worst thing in the world to do is look over and see somebody that's scared and kind of lost and a little bit nervous as all get out. And she's there with her mom, whom I love myself some Shannon. She's awesome. Yeah. That is your mom. And I just see fear because of me. If you take me out of the situation, I don't think that would have been as fearful.
Well, it still would have been overwhelming. It was an overwhelming situation.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a very uncomfortable situation. So court, I did not want to be there for any reason, and not knowing what I was doing with it, just trying to have a certain result.
A lot of lawyers will pounce on that. That's blood in the water. That's let me show my client who I'm quasi-related to, and his parents that were there as well, let me show them just how bad the Arizona firm is. I didn't go that route.
Well, no, not necessarily. However, that look on your face right now, I'm not sure what you remember.
I did not go that route. I told you were going to lose because you were going to lose.
Yes, it was the way you
and I didn't say it cocky.
I told you you're going to lose because you were going to lose. Yeah, it was slightly biting, slightly cutting for some reason. You're not going to win, is how it came out.
Well,
and I was
gave
fine.
You other options.
I didn't know anything.
I was opening up the playbook for you and saying, hey, look, we got some options here to work through some things.
Listen, but you were a little too nice.
But if you really want some change here.
But I didn't have any time to think.
You're going to need to swap where we're at. This is the wrong court.
I'm just saying it makes sense. I wouldn't have a clue that I could even talk to you.
Right.
You know, I had never been to court before for any reason other than to, affirm a divorce.
Right.
Affirm, which I got by default.
Right.
And so I'm just saying.
So that's how we met. So so everybody out there, this is how we met. And,
so you show up.
I don't remember it being ugly.
No. But then in that same, I mean, you had you had your client with this whole, fear, this whole BS ob story and all this stuff, or however that came out. And then it was my turn to cross-examine him, and I didn't dismantle that effort. And I did. And I looked over at you, and you're like,
you were killing
he's
it.
like this. And I was like, what is this? The weirdest situation.
There were some good questions.
Yeah. Well, because it was all, and so that was the whole thing. I was like, what is this? Like, you seem nice, but.
Everybody wants to jump on some, every once in a while, as an attorney. Now we're in management, so I'm not lawyering right now. But so I can let this cat out the bag right now. I may deny this if I roll back into court again and decide to put the six-shooters back on. If I decide to put the six-shooters back on, then here we go. But even then, I probably have a hard time denying this. You want to jump over on the other side of the table once in a while and represent the other side. You don't really like the cards you've got.
You don't like the cards you've got.
But with your particular scenario there, that was kind of playing Monopoly because we were in the wrong court, and I knew the judge was going to dismiss this thing because if you wanted real change and a real modification to your parenting scenario, it needed to be in family law court and not where we were, enforcement court. And so...
But I'm like, well, why did they even accept my... I mean, anyway.
Sweetheart, the
So-
government will take your money for any reason.
They accepted, and I had a court date, and they served him with that order of protection.
And I got hired.
And they granted my order of protection and didn't say, "Hey, you're in the wrong
Well,
court.
we
Take
got
this
to meet
down
each
the
other
hall."
that day.
Okay.
And it was fun. And you did ask some great questions. It was awesome to see you flex your Matlock muscles.
No, I just recovered or uncovered the truth.
Then you had another issue probably a year later or so.
It was about 9 months, 10
So
months.
within
later.
the same year. Now, I'm just a busy fella that doesn't do a whole lot of these types of cases, period. Family law, I leave to the Arizona family law firm. I mean, they kill it. And I would fill in if necessary, if somebody was out, pregnant. One of the attorneys, or one of them is dang near dead. The rest, they're sold, not yet though. And I would fill in then at those times. And your case, surprised that you came in to hire us.
Well, I didn't want to either. But then, I mean.
For all the law people out there watching this, there was no conflict. No conflict.
Well, and I didn't hire you. And I tried hiring someone else because at that point I was the defendant.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to be there again. And I was above my head, or that was above my head and in over my head. And you happened to go into the haircut place that I worked at randomly.
Oh, great clips.
You'd been going there all those years, 10 or 15 years, everyone. Anyway, it just was wild.
And I didn't know you.
Bananas.
And it wasn't that awkward when I did see you after that one time. It was like,
right
oh, hi.
after that first court date, it was like a couple months later. You walked in the front door with 2 kids. I'd been doing their hair for a year or so.
Yeah.
Never saw you. Never. And I was like, oh my gosh.
That had to have been a joy to do their
Those
hair.
are your kids. Yeah. And
Now they're your kids.
and now they're my kids. The one that was like, no one wanted to do his hair because he's so bouncy and wild. And I had one just like him. They're the same age. We have 3 12-year-olds.
We do.
But anyway, so yeah, you were very. I decided to approach you because just to get over with, because you didn't see me. No one. You saw. You saw. I think Janet or one of the
Yeah,
girls.
Janet
like, all
was
the
my
time.
regular, but
Yeah.
the boys, I just pawned them off on whomever would take them.
Yes, and I just had never known. I thought, oh my gosh! And I told all the girls, that's Kelly's lawyer. Oh, sorry. That's so. My ex's lawyer. They're like, what? No way. Him? He's awesome. Like, he's a cool guy. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I did. I walked up to you and I was like, do you remember me?
I was
Do I
warm.
represent you? Was your response? I said, no. You represented my ex-husband. You said, ooh, what's his name? Or what's his name. I told you, you said, oh, yeah. I liked you way better than him. He was, you were really cool. Or you were, I don't know. And you were nice and it was fine after that. But then 6 months later, I needed a lawyer. I had a court date coming that I was in over my head, and I tried hiring another attorney. I consulted with him and he quoted me, and when I went to pay him, he would not call me back. Brian at law. I can't remember his last name.
So let's pounce on that, because you went to another attorney's outfit. Now you run an outfit, and it's kind of like, what's the difference between where you went and where you are now, where you ended up going out of kind of desperation? Your coworkers.
You went in one day, and really all the girls at my work were out. It was an outrageous situation that I couldn't believe happened to normal people or to regular people, and so they were just asking questions, I guess, about it. Like, can this really happen? How was this able to happen to a regular mom, like a regular, because if it happened to me, it could happen to anyone.
Yeah.
And so they just asked you all these questions, and one of my friend Erin there, she couldn't sleep at night because she was thinking about just how awful it was, and so she was the one you'd seen, and she was just asking you questions, and you said, well, just have her come in. She can, consult with our family law division, and we'll take care of her. And so she haunted me about that for like 3 days. She was like, you need to call them. Just call them. just do it. Have you called him yet? Like, have you called him? You know? And so I was like, I guess. Like, I was like, oh my gosh. And you did. I consulted with Nate, you and Nate, and Becky was there. And instantly I smiled for the first time in 2 weeks. And I hired and it worked out. So I couldn't believe that worked out like that either. I mean,
I had to take Becky out of the room and kind of discuss whether or not we had a conflict, because this was kind of odd, and we discussed it with some other counsel out there and determined that there was no conflict, which makes perfect sense. There's nothing similar about the two situations whatsoever. Anyway, and then Nate represented you some of the way, and Thomas represented you some of the way, and I ended up in the Big Daddy hearing,
the trial,
because the trial that they pushed for, that the attorney was in Canada and dropped on me last minute. Oh, hey, by the way, I got a trial, and it's all the cards for you and your as you described, normal mom life.
Yeah.
And
so the New Year's before, you'd been against me in court, and this heading into Christmas a year later, you were representing me in a trial. I met you anyway within 1 year, basically from one end to the other.
That went fairly well. I don't think it could have gotten any better. If it was very was not a normal moment, and you can just own it on up there. It was not a very normal trial, and the result of it was immediate, and it was devastating to the other side. And oftentimes, you know, practicing law way back when, and even, you know, a few years ago, you don't see the blood in the water until there's a paper ruling, you know, a week or three later, typically. This one was right from the bench, and we had a very angry judge at the scenario. Children were returned immediately, and much of the decision-making, if not all, was handed right on over to you indefinitely.
That didn't,
That was...
It was a victory, but it didn't help my 4 or 5 year olds, you know, who didn't understand the situation, didn't have that.
So, you know? How about that shiny, fun situation on how we met? Defendant to client to then a few months after that.
No, it was during that time that I needed a 9 to 5 because I was working.
Oh, that's right.
Evenings and weekends, and I needed a 9 to 5, and I asked Becky. I just texted her, Becky here, because I connected with her immediately.
Yeah.
We got to know each other over the phone too, me and her.
Yeah, we have good people here.
And just working on my case and stuff, and I just asked her, how did you become a paralegal? I just texted her out of the blue.
So let's pause it right there. Okay. I love this. The rest of this story is fun. Let's like pause it right there, because we get married a couple of years later, and this is not in our minds.
No.
And at all. I mean, I hardly ever saw you even when you did work for the marketing team. But we're going to pause right here. At our wedding was my family. Immediate family.
Brothers, sisters.
Your parents. Immediate family. Work family. Our work family. That says it all. Like no friends, no big
cousins,
soiree, no cousins.
Well, we had our grandparents. Well, you had your grandparents.
Yeah, grandparents, but they lived.
They lived here. Yeah. I don't.
And so it was a very small venue, but that's the Arizona firm. It is family. And that is, it just kind of seems to make sense to us, but maybe those out there looking at this, wow, that really is interesting. So, okay.
It was
you connected to Becky, and you wanted a 9 to 5.
Yeah, and a paralegal was a dream job of mine. An attorney's, a lawyer. I mean, a law environment. I loved the law, and I just thought it was interesting, the processes, the systems, the rules, the organization of it, and the enforcement, all of it. And I was a Matlock loving, law and order loving.
Most people out there are going to question you because you're very young, and they're like, that young hot chick is watching Matlock.
Matlock when I was 8, 9, 10, or younger.
They had to have been reruns.
Matlock. Yeah, because I love the mystery. I love the solving of it, the whole hour, and then Law and Order. And so I wanted to, but I just didn't know, you know, I thought, well, if I'm going to go for it, I might as well just see what it takes to. So I just asked Becky, you know, how did you become a paralegal? Even though I didn't have family law in mind. She just said that, there are schools, but most attorneys prefer to train you themselves.
Yeah, some do, some don't. That's not bad information.
So she was trained, excuse me, and no schooling or, you know.
She was magically trained. So
That's what you said, yeah.
Yeah,
I didn't know that at the
stock.
time. But she said most just learn on the job, and attorneys will train you to how they like it done. So she said that there had been a couple uncouplings from the firm here, a couple fire. I don't know if
we gotten a little busy. We had gotten a little busy here and there, and we needed some new hands. We were bringing on some folks.
She just said, she goes, I'll just talk to Dana to see what he says. And so she called me back and had set up I think she called me, or maybe you did. I can't remember who
she did.
Set me up.
I don't make any decisions on the calendar even still.
No, yeah, with an appointment. Oh. I don't remember. I think Becky I don't remember.
You make those now, so.
Yeah, but not for hires.
No. I usually don't call the hires. I usually bring them in to have somebody come bring. It doesn't matter. So I was not excited about the idea of you working here, not because I didn't think that you were talented or anything like that. I felt like you were used to making better money than what a starter outer in law would be. And there's number one. Number two, you're a single mom of 3 kids, and that's like, you know, and Jerry Maguire, that's a sacred thing. Jerry, that's a sacred thing. And so, so I thought, I don't think this is a good fit. But the marketing manager snagged me up and said, I think she'd be blooming great in intake. And I couldn't argue that. I thought, yeah, well, that actually does make sense. And there is a learn curve there, but one that you're kind of used to, given the fact that you're used to being social all day long on your feet. By way of being in the service industry, of cutting hair and legal industry. Yeah, there's similarities. You're hearing everybody's dirty laundry all day long, twice on Sunday, and not only theirs, but those that you're working for and those that you're working with, and so on and so forth. I mean, it's like this.
So
There's a reason for the barbershop.
It's social. Yeah, it's
a local barbershop.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, very different actually, but it's it's a fun social, but this is a different kind of. Intake is a different type of.
You found that
what
out.
We do. Yeah,
you found that out pretty hard when folks are calling you with sex offenses, or there's a murder, or there's a
divorce, even a divorce is devastating.
That come with that.
Yeah, it's a sad thing.
And or a car wreck that has got somebody in shambles, and how do they get to work? How do they even get to work? Let alone they can't physically work for a minute, that kind of thing. So you're taking all these yucky phone calls, people not on their best moment. Some of them can't even believe they're calling a lawyer.
Most can't. Yeah,
right? Can't believe they're calling you.
But I know, where I was at with my life was a good place for me to be, because it was therapeutic to talk to other people who had. I thought I was, alone with hard legal things. So that was helpful most, and I was able to empathize with and really relate to anyone who called, except just the worst time of their life, because I had just been, and the firm had helped me.
And I'm pretty sure that nobody here knew, or you didn't. I'm pretty sure no one here knew that I had been separated for quite some time.
No, we did not have a clue.
And kind of set us up on our first date, kind of. They're trying to push me into dating, and I'm thinking that's not such a great idea, because I'm feeling kind of not too excited about that prospect of dating. And she goes, just practice on Paige. And I said, I'd be worthless. And you're like, that's okay, my friend.
No.
I don't know.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
I was getting
that's
set
okay,
up,
my
but not
friend.
by you.
I didn't know, but I did overhear, and I just thought it would be funny to mess with you.
you thought
I mean,
it was
we were,
funny.
the
That's
whole thing
okay,
was kind of
That's
funny.
okay, my friend. I've been on lots of worthless dates,
Yeah.
something like that.
Nice. And then you're like, okay, I don't know.
And it was like a whole new,
And I was like, really? Are we really gonna?
it's like a whole new light came on at the
Yeah.
Del Senor Taco.
Yeah.
It's like a whole new light. Yeah,
did.
really romantic.
There was
Senor
one
Taco.
moment. I just went to the
2.5
next.
blocks away. Now it's no longer here, so they're somewhere
It's
else.
like
but-
Los something though.
Oh,
Los
yeah,
Tacos.
It's another taco joint. Yeah.
Los
It's
Tacos.
like basically a Filiberto's, but not.
Yeah.
And yeah, so
But-
my romantic self took.
Well, yeah, but
Your
it was
cute
so
self.
weird to like. I don't know. That was a weird. That's not what I expected.
It was so interesting how real it got outside
Mm-hmm.
of the work and the things that we had always talked about and just how we connected like right away. It's like, what
Yeah.
the heck?
Wow. That was crazy.
And I remember thinking, is this the lonely talking or is this, I'm kind of taken by this girl. And anyway, it went pretty
Just
fast.
one moment to
from
the
there.
next. Yeah, it was just different. And I was comfortable before, but
And everybody here
It's
knew,
different.
and nobody, well, there was no scuttlebutts and nobody,
yeah.
Doing
Well, it was fast. A
wages.
month later, we were
yeah, we were
trying to
month or-
elope.
we were thinking about it.
No, not
That
just
was your
thinking.
idea.
No, it wasn't. But I loved it.
Well, I'm a religious man. And
I
it was
know.
it was a challenge.
It was scary.
It was
yeah.
challenging. And then us
know.
blending and all that.
Couldn't believe it.
Why not just, let's just get this out of the way, the whole marriage thing, and let's get going on it.
Yeah.
And
We thought that was a grand idea. I don't
we
know.
did think it was a good idea. But
we didn't think
ended up not
much.
going through with that.
Period.
There wasn't much thinking going on there, was there?
It was fun, and
It was the
right.
greatest blooming thing ever.
Yeah.
And then catastrophe hit. The twins were in a terrible ranger
Well, wait. We
accident.
decided not
we were
to
going to
elope.
wait it out.
Yeah.
So we introduced our kids. Genius on our end. Yeah. We
Yeah.
introduced the kids after we were going to elope and decided
Yeah.
our families spoke sense into us
Yeah.
saying your kids kind of need to know each other and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
We're like, yeah, okay. So we made that
Yeah, I guess-
decision.
Just kidding.
They kind of matter.
Jeez. Okay.
So we go on a 4th
Well,
of July vacation.
I had met your kids. You had met mine.
yeah, but they had met
But
each
they
other.
hadn't met each other.
Right.
And you thought, well, with someone here had a cabin. They
Yeah,
let us borrow.
let's go to a small town and stay with each other. And you stayed upstairs with
Mine
with the girls actually, and I
Oh
stayed
yeah, that's
downstairs
true.
with
Yeah,
the boys.
that's right.
And
We have 4 boys and 3 girls,
yeah,
and together, or
and then there was a ranger accident that it's just a tip
Involved
over, but both
5
the
of the
twins got
kids,
injured.
Yeah. So both of his twins. My
We're
daughter
on the
was.
we're on the passenger side doorway, and their hands and arms got injured pretty.
Yeah,
It
it was life changing.
It's life changing
yeah.
for her specifically, and for
Yeah.
him, it's altering as well. So
It was
a big test for us.
very but they all had to do something. We all had to do something to help that situation. Everyone did,
Yeah,
including even the little ones. I mean, obviously, even Grayer had to be calm and had to be out of the way and had to be, he had to blend and be,
yeah.
some had to drive, some called Jesse called 911, and that was
Reed was restraining Clint. I had Lola holding
That was
her
a
hand literally
wild,
together
wild
in my hand.
wild card,
That
wild
was
wild
a
card.
wild first go, wasn't it?
So the first time we got our kids together,
It's all been downhill from there, though.
just that one time.
Well, we'll keep you
it's a big-
posted on the next stuff. But we lived out of the hospital for quite some time, and then tied the knot in October, months from then. And boy, how awesome! And so now we just kind of one thing leads to another, and little at a time. With media, with marketing, with managing and making sure that our quality at Arizona, because we kind of hold ourselves out. We're kind of, I like to use the word greedy, but it's not the right word. We're kind of proud.
Obsessed
A little bit.
with
Proud of the quality and the
oh, yeah.
tough that comes with the way we go about things. We expect our clients to understand their situation well, and we expect
and to be receptive and do what they need to do to be part of the team as much as
to join the tribe. I mean, they're going to
blend
help.
in and
Right. They're going to help their cause as much as any lawyer, Matlock included.
No, he's alone. Ranger, he can do it all.
Matlock included, were the client-based, and so to have the attorneys and to have the staff and to have the family we have here at the Arizona firm. And so Arizona just felt natural to name it Arizona firm because we're from here, which is interesting. So I'm a 6th generation native. You're not going to meet anybody besides a Native American that's more than a 6th generation here. And even them, that might be a toughie, but pretty close. And you're a transplant. You moved here as a child. You moved here as a teenager, a 12, 13-year-old, 14-year-old.
I turned the month before, right before I turned 14, the month before.
It's crazy. And so, but you always wanted to remain here. Your entire family went back and you stayed.
Yeah. I've always loved it. I've always felt like it was here. And I did not want to move here. And I tried to reject it for the first year. And I thought, I'm going back as soon as to Las Vegas. And where
she had a whole different profession.
You're so stupid. No.
Should we talk about your first
Anyways,
name?
And then I got back. No, and then everyone did go back, but I love it here. I just felt like this is here. My whole life is here. My whole destiny is here. The unfolding of the rest of my life will be here. I always just felt it, like in my soul.
Strong stuff.
I need some.
Yeah. Strong.
But yeah, I feel like I'm just as proud of Arizona as I feel like you are. I feel like I have every right to be just as proud of it and from it, and
we're lucky to have you.
I've got every
I'm glad you stayed.
to claim it. Me too.
I'm glad you stayed.
I can't believe how things worked out. It's just
So yeah, it is.
You okay?
It is crazy. I'm choking
I know.
on ice cube here, our fancy ice.
Is that from home?
Yeah, it's still rolling.
Yeah. That's good ice.
It's coming back though. Can you feel it coming back?
Yeah. Do you need a minute?
No. You can dance if you want to. Leave your friends behind. Yeah. Anyway, being from Arizona and you loving it, and you pointing out things that I have kind of taken for granted.
Well, and you opened up my world to Arizona. I didn't know there was such things here in the state.
Well, it's been fun to
globe. I'm serious. Like
there's hardly anybody from here, and
when
you and I just happened to go on a date to Globe, and this little Mexican food place, the Burger House. Everybody knows about that. That's from around here.
I didn't know.
And she's pointing out these grand, these canyons and walls and all the pretty sunset and blah, 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 blah. And I thought, wow, Arizona really is that cool. I'd kind of forgotten to look.
Yeah.
You know, it'd been a long time. I'd forgotten to look, you know.
Yeah.
And that was really, really cool. And so you kind of added a little bit of excitement. But, you know, when I was practicing and we weren't managing, we'd have cases in Kingman, cases in Bisbee. I mean, cases in St. John's, cases in, you know, Flagstaff, cases
Prescott.
Everywhere. Name it. Yeah. Name
Heck,
it, we're there.
Pinell.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be fun.
Right.
River Bottom.
River. I call it Soggy Bottom Cafe, but the River Bottom.
River Bottom.
But yeah, no. So it's been a fun ride, and so we went into management to keep the quality of the Arizona firm moving forward, and the attorneys here are awesome.
I would trust my daughter. I would tell my daughter, my mother's cases of anyone's kids, my own kids, in anyone's hands here. It's really powerful to be able to sell that, or it's not a sell because
You feel it.
Yeah, it's a real testimonial.
Yeah.
I really was a client here. I was really opposed at first. Before that, even an opposing party. However, what do you say? How do you opponent?
I was nice.
You know, I didn't. You were. I didn't know that.
I didn't have
you
to
seemed
be. There's a lot of douchebags out there that would have really taken advantage of this.
It felt sketchy. It felt like Better Call Saul slightly with a better looking, but it did. I felt like,
Good
I
thing
just
you added the
can't.
better looking part.
Of course, I have to go home. No, but of course, but it didn't feel like
I might have
not
to
that
choke on this
sleazy.
again.
No, he's not sleazy, but it just didn't feel like, hey, yeah, so
love
do you want to
Saul.
talk
I
to
think
me?
he's
Like, let's
great.
work something out. What? I know, I would love him too, but at first he seems
Well, you
a
should have
little
worked
too.
something out.
I didn't know.
But then
I
afterward,
didn't
I
even know you
told
would
you,
be
hey,
there. You
by
got
the
a lawyer.
way, if in the event you want to proceed this or pursue this,
Well, yeah, that was
go
the other
over there.
thing. Dana goes and talks to my mom after the court and says, "Can you and Paige meet me down at the end of the hall?" I'm like, "What the heck?" My mom's like, "Okay, I guess. I mean, do you want to?" It's like, why would we go talk to him? Because we had just lost, and so, and then you walk up and you're like, "Told you you're gonna lose." I'm like, "Is there a reason you need to talk to me? Like, isn't this a conflict of interest?" You're like, "Oh no, I'm just doing this as a favor to my dad."
it wasn't a conflict. It's always a good idea, and you learn this
Yeah.
the second go round. It's always a good idea in my mind because I had already talked to my client about this discussion with you. Is there was conflict between the two of you that needed to be figured out for peace for your daughter first,
That's the best
and then
part.
secondly for the both of you as well to kind of move forward in the co-parenting
But I had never
relationship.
heard of that before, because I had never heard of another lawyer or one of the lawyers, especially a family. I mean, I'm not familiar,
Yeah.
and I still haven't heard of a family law lawyer who talks peacefully or who tries to mediate while protecting their client's best interests. And so here at the firm, it's like they don't want to fight. There is there is like a bulldog flavor if they don't, but there's an open flavor to let's work this out to where it's the best for everyone. So it's not a constant battle like mine had become, which I didn't want to become that. I don't know, the other side, I don't know what the intent is, but it's not the best for the kids. But sometimes you entrench yourself, become too positional.
If you pray for rain, you got to deal with the mud. And the best scenario always is peace. So we have here now that you're part of the management and we're both kind of interested mainly in the quality of the services being rendered and everything there about it, and we're kind of over it all. And kind of looking at it going, okay, well, you can chase the dollar or you can chase for excellence.
The good, yeah.
And
Excellent.
excellence is the best result for the client, and it doesn't have a dollar amount on it. And sometimes your opponent, in family law specifically, but sometimes in injury law, when you've got an insurance company that doesn't want to pay anything, sometimes you've got to roll up the sleeves and get dirty, and go after it. But that isn't your first choice. Your first choice is to resolve the matter as quickly as you can, for as much as you can, and get your clients back on their feet. In family law, it's a little bit more dicey because there's emotion behind that one. On the family, with the injury side of things, you've got emotion on your side. We represent the people that are injured, the people that couldn't go to work, the people that can't get out of bed without feeling this, and that for a time, or sometimes forever.
Or they have a lot, or we talk a lot to the family members of those who are hurt.
Yeah, or people that have even experienced death in those. I mean, it's a
heavy burden.
But in family law, you've got emotion on one end and emotion on the other, and that can be manipulated by the attorneys to a degree.
Yes, it can be exacerbated or mainly that.
Yeah.
I've seen that.
And we're not going to take part in that game. So if the other side is going to pray for rain, they're going to have to deal with the mud. We're going to beat you with reasonable.
Exactly.
And our client
with your own
is the person that we need to roll that through. Listen, this is what the reasonable result looks like. This is how this is going to be around here, and this is the
save
pathway.
You money too. Yeah, because this will be the least amount of money you pay as far as otherwise.
But we're not getting any love on the other end of things. We're not getting much responses, so on and so forth. We've got maybe an attorney that's grandstanding a little bit, or maybe they're just not paying much attention to it, or whatever the case might be. And that can frustrate the situation significantly. And when you've got that, it's like, okay, hold on. Kind of like that's why I met you at the end of that hallway saying, listen, okay, you guys have a dispute still.
Yeah.
Just because a judge just threw this case out doesn't mean the dispute got thrown out. And so this is what I recommend. Boom, 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 boom. But that was for my client. That wasn't for you, but you were a beneficiary of that too. That was a win-win. But that was actually for my client. At the end of the case we represented you on, and you went through 3 of the lawyers. Just you got to touch all the bases apparently. And I got to do the trial. But at the end of that, and I mean, it was a bloodbath. I know you remember what I said. I know you remember what I told you. And you remember what I said?
Yeah. Well, basically, just now it's time to go make peace, or now it's time to go make amends. After we'd beat them, or after, I mean, it wasn't a contest, but after we'd had the much better. They were. What's the word?
It was a killing. It was
everything they
not even a
battled
mercy
for
killing.
was
everything
just completely hit back of, like, taken away from.
Yeah, and
it was
so
good,
I
but it just
said it
was awful on the way.
It might feel good today, and I said, but the battle here is won.
Yeah.
But the most important thing is the war, and that's them.
The kids,
and I pointed to
they weren't there.
Your ex and his wife at the time, and I said, make peace with them, and you did. And I was very impressed with how you were able to.
A couple months, and then I did. Yeah.
That was impressive.
Thank you.
That was very impressive.
Well, I knew you were right, and I wanted that. I'd wanted that the whole time. It wasn't like I wanted to be there with that. I didn't want to be at war with them.
So that's what we preach here.
Yeah.
That's what we preach here. That's how
and
we do
did.
it.
We had pretty peaceful for a long time.
And you're living your best Matlock life. In fact, I think Matlock needs to be watching you now.
Yeah, well, I'm not.
You're like the heartbeat around here. You're awesome.
It's so much fun. I mean, this is a special team, a special place that you started, and it revolves around you and your vibe and your excellence.
Well, we love it, and we love that it's the Arizona firm. So let's wrap it up on that. Other than this episode has been brought to you by Paige Glow. So
Big
for all
Daddy.
your really
Big Daddy.